Hi, today I will be presenting a video on the art direction and production design of the 1995 movie Hackers. I chose this movie as it is heavily stylistic in its execution and has a wealth of content to discuss for this assignment, as well as it being one of my favorite movies of all time. Hackers was directed by British director Ian Softley, with the production design done by John Beard. The art direction was done by John Frankish, and the costume design was executed by the legendary Roger K. Burton. Hackers is set in present-day, mid-1990s New York City. The genre is techno-thriller and can also be described as a contemporary counterculture cyberpunk film. The main look and feel the film was attempting to achieve was a heavily stylized counterculture aesthetic. I believe that through the use of elaborate sets, art direction, and costume design, they were able to achieve this goal. Ian Softley stated that he was aware of the fact that any technology they showed on screen would have ended up looking dated very quickly, so he decided that he wanted to give an impression to the audience of what the technology felt like, which is why all of the tech in this film is presented as a hyper-stylized interpretation of the real thing. The set decorators on Hackers were Alyssa Winter and Joanne Woolard. Several sets were for the protagonists' bedrooms, which were given a messy teenager's bedroom aesthetic, with their computers being the primary focal point in their lives. Each of the protagonists' rooms that we end up seeing in the film are heavily stylized to fit that character's personality and personal aesthetic. The lair of the main antagonist, aka the Plague, is stylized like that of a teenager who's suddenly getting paid a real salary, but instead of being occupied by a teenager, it's just some goofy guy in his late 30s. One of the most stylized sets in the movie is the club that our protagonists hang out in. Before entering the club, we see a street market happening right outside on the sidewalk, and various posters cover the walls of the building. As we enter the club, we see a rollerblade ramp that leads to the lower level of an elaborate multi-leveled set filled with various objects ranging from CRT monitors, a police barrier, random light fixtures, and a human gyroscope in the background. The walls are plastered with spray-painted art ranging from murals to graffiti and posters. The center point of the club is a large 9-screen projection of a video game that our protagonists compete in for the highest score. This is also the only use of CGI in the entire film, the rest being practical composite effects and miniatures. The main server room for EMC has these 10-foot-high rectangular glass columns with text scrolling on them like a digital cathedral with stylized lighting and all. Later we see the behind-stage area of Razor and Blade, a pair of media icons who host a counterculture TV show, with a wall of Sony Trinitron CRT monitors and various abstract art filling the room. Many of the props used in Hackers are the protagonist's personal computers and laptops. At one point, we see them customizing them by painting their laptops using stencils and spray paint. We also see a yellow floppy disk containing important files that is passed around from protagonist to protagonist and eventually the antagonist. The fun thing about the effects used in Hackers is that they were all for the most part practical. The only CGI in the film was for the video game sequence in the club, the rest being practical miniatures with simple compositing. My favorite use of this is during the opening title sequence, where we see a bird's eye view of New York City suddenly transform into a city made of circuit boards and computer chips, with zooming specks of light traveling on the information superhighway. My absolute favorite effect in Hackers is the spinning phone booth scenes. It's so much fun and always brings a smile to my face every time I watch the movie. The sequence in the movie where Dade passes the yellow floppy to the Plague, we see the limo and the skateboard-riding antagonist disappear into a cloud of steam emanating from the streets in a homage to the 1976 movie Taxi Driver.
Use only the dial-ups, access codes, and passwords in your collection. Can't ask for any help from us.
Talking to me?
One of the biggest design choices for the movie Hackers is the wardrobe. The legendary costume designer Roger K. Burton was hired to do the costume design and clearly had a lot of fun with it. Each of the protagonists don an elaborate outfit of contrasting styles and colors, everything ranging from army surplus clothes to vintage pieces from secondhand stores. In an interview, Rogers stated that after researching what genuine hackers dress like, he found them really uninspiring. So he decided early on that he wanted the cast to have a street attitude and be a reflection of the many eclectic style tribes found in both New York City and the London club scenes at the time. So he put them in a carefully styled combination of past and present sportswear, workwear, militaria, classic punk, and vintage street fashion, giving each their own individuality. Many of the articles were sourced from Rogers' own collection of vintage streetwear, as well as a lot of street markets, vintage shops, and trendy boutiques in both London and New York City. Many of the clothes were mildly altered to give them a more stylistic edge. Some articles were made as one-off designs for some of the characters, specifically for The Plague. All of the background actors are wearing interesting clothes too, especially for any of the scenes in the club, many of them wearing elaborate outfits, some with interesting hats. One wears a chandelier on their head, and a few wear top hats. All of their designs are as loud and as flashy as possible. I find it adds a lot of depth and believability to the film. The main theme of Hackers is friendship, and that despite everything that goes on in our lives, looking out for one another is key. To quote the director Ian Softly, the thing is that Hackers is a comedy as well, and it sort of intentionally doesn't take itself seriously. But what emerges as it progresses is a very emotional story about friendship and the fact that you'll look out for your mates. So when one of them gets imprisoned, they're doing everything they can to get them out of prison. And they've been great rivals, and there's been a lot of bragging rights and, quote, I'm better than you, quote, and a lot of joshing up to that point. And then they really come together as a group when there's an enemy that's defined. The art direction and production design was at the core of what this movie was trying to present. It does a lot of the heavy lifting in this film and adds so much texture to the world the characters are living in, and it contextualizes so much of what's going on in their lives, giving every aspect of this movie a heavy stylized aesthetic allowed for the absurdity of it to be more believable. The depth it brings helps with the suspension of disbelief and allows you to enjoy this film so much more. At the end of the day, Hackers without the brilliant art direction, production design, and costume design would not be a Hackers worth watching. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you haven't already, I highly suggest you seek out the movie Hackers, as it is a very fun, campy, cheesy movie, and although it's not a great film per se, I'd argue it is one of the most fun movies you could possibly watch. Thank you for watching.
Shit on me.
Hidden beneath the world we know is the world they inhabit.
Dave,
Yeah, Mom?
what are you doing?
I'm taking over a TV network.
Well, finish up, honey, and get to sleep.
They're hackers.
Hackers penetrate and ravage private and publicly owned computer systems.
Hack the planet.
It's not just something they do.
Sure this sweet machine's not going to waste.
Are you challenging me?
It's who they are.
I win, you wear a dress on our date.
And if I win, so do you.
They can crack any code. And get inside any system.
Hello?
Mr. Gill, according to our records, you're dead.
What?
But this time,
Come here, look at this.
It's some kind of virus.
Unless $5 million is transferred to the following account, I will capsize 5 oil tankers.
they just hacked the wrong guy.
Game's over.
Whoever wrote this needs somebody to take the fall.
He's about to commit the perfect computer crime.
You've created a virus that's going to cause a worldwide disaster.
And they're about to take the blame.
A hacker planted the virus. But it's the perfect cover.
We're being framed.
Can we be allies?
I don't play well with others.
Wow, we are fried.
Okay, let's nail it.
Now,
You're not good enough to beat me.
Yeah, maybe I'm not. But we are.
they're the only ones who can prevent a catastrophe.
I know how to stop this guy. They'll trace you like that.
Are you nuts? Come at me!
Unlike any the world has ever seen.
Never send a boy to do a woman's job.
Hackers of the world unite.
Cops on the building.
I need more time.
This is the end, my friend.
United Artists welcomes you to the new world. Hackers.